Hello everyone, welcome to week 3. I wanted to start this off first of all with a little kind of recap and projection of where this is going. So week 1 we did Mickey Mouse, and the whole week I managed to get everything done perfectly fine. Started it so I had the most motivation, and to be honest, it was probably one of the weeks I was the most free. Week 2, I did Donald Duck, and I didn't do the character full animation. I was really annoyed at that. I didn't get, because I just didn't have the time to do it. And week 3 is what we're going to be doing today. But I'd like to talk about the future of it. So, in situations like what happened with week 2, I didn't have a day to do it. I won't go back. Well, I might go back, but I probably won't. That's just, I didn't get to do it. That's it. I feel like if I go back and do it, it kind of removes any sort of incentive to make this a workout sort of thing. Because if I miss something, it's only on me. So I feel like if I leave it, or if I come back to it, the motivation of doing things is gone. So that's what I want to mention. So we're on week 3. Now, week 1 we had Mickey Mouse with a lot of reference. We had model sheets, we had character sheets, we had expression charts, we had tons of footage, audio, everything we could use. Week 2 with Daffy Duck was very much the same. In fact, I even had a book on how to draw Daffy Duck pretty much, so a lot of reference. So that is something that's been very consistent with these two. And they're both cartoon characters. So week 3 is a little different of a thing. We're still going to pick a character and do them every single day. And I did get a little excited about this, so I kind of moved on. Kind of did a bit before recording. So today we're going to be doing. Now it's a bit of a weird one, so bear with me. But we will be doing this character. Now, if you don't know who this character is, fair enough. It's pretty obscure. It is the character Sammy, don't know her last name, from Advance Wars, or the Advance Wars series. And this picture here is pretty much all we have to go off of. There's another one, but she's like meant to be younger in the other picture, so it isn't the same real character. So we've got this picture, and we've got her in-game kind of expressions. So we have this much reference for the character. I have no idea what she looks like from behind, what even the back of her head looks like, how this looks, how this hair looks front facing. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us. But you can see it's more of an anime aesthetic as well. So it's definitely an interesting choice, and I'll show you what I've done so far. So we've got 3 layers pretty much. So this is the first thing I did. And what I did is I basically just went over and traced exactly where everything was. Then following that, I took out the skull, trying to see what was the kind of color bit of it, and then I rotated the skull and tried to create a sort of head shape. From there, I got the profile? No, profile in front. I don't know what it's called. The profile, the expression that she makes in that, and the sort of 3/4. So that's where we're at with this. And that's where we're going to be starting off today. So we're going to be continuing on with our 3/4. So I guess I could go. To be honest, it shouldn't be 3/4, it should be. Because that's not really a profile, is it? It's kind of a. I think I might have made the brush a bit too big. I'm messing around with some stuff over there. Well, that's alright. Yeah, I'm very excited to do this character because it's well, it's a difficult one. It's not very typical. And every time I think of what I have to do with the character, I get more and more excited. Okay, well I gotta. What did I did? Make the brush too big again. I'm like, okay, well how would I approach this sort of thing? And I will say that the anime style nowadays is by far the biggest. Like it's huge. We all know the anime style. It's everywhere. You know, a lot of people grew up with it now, so it's very common. But I'd like to say this: the I forgot what I was going to say. Anime style grew up very common. Oh yeah, I was talking about this. I don't remember what it was. I was talking about this with yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday. And I was talking about the French animation industry and the Japanese animation industry. And the French animation industry is it's quite big, to be honest. It's probably I don't know if it's as big as well, it's not as big as the Japanese one, to be honest. I think that might have been right. That's what I wanted. Yeah, so the French animation industry is quite big and quite lucrative. I was trying to figure out why, because if you talked about animation things like that, the main proprietors of it, mostly people think of like Disney, Studio Ghibli. If you're more in the know, probably another one that's very commonly referenced. What's another one? Pixar. No, it's not too deep. But I was trying to think why the 2D animation industry is big in those countries, but not so big in a country like, well, I guess like England would probably be a good example, or America, or things like that. It's no longer becoming a big thing. But 3D remains king in those areas because people look at them as cost effective. Because you don't have to keep redrawing the character. So I was trying to figure out why, and I think I've come up with it, and it's to do with the external industry around it. So what I mean by that is probably the best example is the comics industry, or the best example would be what I immediately said, anime with Japan. You know, where do anime stories come from? Where do these shows come from? And if you sat there screaming at your computer, you'd probably say, "Oh, but they come from manga, obviously." And you're right. Not always. Granted, there are some animators that do create their own work. I think they're called OVAs. Which I believe stands for original video animation, but I could be wrong. But anyway, you have those original video animations, and people look at them and go, "Oh yeah, they look great," or "Oh yeah, they look like this," or whatever. But they don't have the story or something like that. People don't gravitate towards an original video animation. They gravitate towards a series of characters that they can enjoy. And why is that? Well, it's the simple answer is that they can look at those characters and go, it's the marketing aspect of it. But another reason would be that they're just more sought after, and they already have an established audience. But you don't have that same sort of thing in England and America and whatnot. Because the comics industry is sort of reserved now for digital comics or online comics. Like you'll see a lot of people making web comics, I guess is probably the best way to phrase it. If you ever go on Instagram and things like that, you'll see a lot of them. Of people making 2 to 3 panel comics that don't really follow, well, they do follow a story, but aren't as sort of epic and this is the manga or something like that. But there's no incentive for people to make these comics and things like that, only for their own successful brand. Like, if you have a good comic brand, chances are you don't really need anything else. But in things like France and things like that, the comics industry is much more bigger, it's much more lucrative, so you have more people creating comics that are going to be turned into productions. And they know that. They know that there's actually a decent chance that whatever they make will be made into some sort of media if it's successful. And with that, it allows for the independent scene. Anytime an industry no longer has an independent scene that actually can thrive, it removes a lot of the kind of great work and things like that. Like, probably the best industry for this at the moment is the games industry. Like, a lot of great games have come out of smaller companies nowadays than bigger companies. Games like Mass Effect or what's that? Yeah, games from these AAA studios don't primarily do as well because do as well, but they aren't as popular because they don't really appeal. You can tell that they're kind of made to appeal to this certain thing. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm kind of not really focusing on what I'm saying. I need to get these eyes right. Anime eyes by far. So this is the character Sammy from Advance Wars. Now originally we wanted to do Max from Advance Wars, who's this big brutish character. Just because I thought I'd enjoy him better, but I don't know why. I went for Sammy instead. It might be because I haven't really got a female character lined up, and this was the one I picked. Maybe it's because I'm not that great at drawing, but I thought I should probably get better at it. Who knows? bother. Yes, okay. So now that I've done it, I can actually focus on what I was trying to say. Basically, what I was trying to say is the comics industry for in anime and in French comics, things like that. There's an independent scene, so you can at any point start your own comic as an individual, have it picked up by an animation studio or animation network, actually make become a whole thing, and they'll want to do it more because they've already got established character designs, things like that, and they can look at it and go like, okay, this is how you want it animated. There's a predefined reference to work with. Whilst when you look at something like, and those countries have created infrastructure that is enabling these people to have their own independent brands. Whilst we do not. And the only ones that do thrive over here with the webcomics, things like that, there isn't enough of a sustenance to them to warrant an animation, things like that. Sure, the person drawing the comics might go like, "Oh, it'd be so good if this was animated," and things like that. But then there's not enough there for it to be animated. And if there is, it's going to require a lot more work from the studio on something that they're not overly sure about. But you don't see that sort of infrastructure in comics and independent things. And the way I wanted to relate it to the games industry is that I think I've done it way too. But the way I wanted to relate it to the games industry is the sort of in the same ways that the games industry does have an independent scene, because it's got things like Steam which enable independent developers. And that translated to because this just doesn't look right, does it? I'll do that. Yeah, but they have industries that enable people to create these wonderful games and things like that. And then the bigger companies will take the concepts that they enjoy and provide a larger budget to something. And to be honest, it's the reason why the film industry is kind of going the way it is because the film industry doesn't have that sort of independent sort of thing. When you look at people like Robert Downey Jr. or someone like that for Avengers, and you're like, oh, he's making 300 million or something like that, or this, and the marketing's insane. There are independent filmmakers, sure, but their work doesn't really get to be presented in that same sort of light. Which is why YouTube kind of did quite well with it, but then they kind of stopped with YouTube. Like YouTube got bought out by all the big companies. Probably because they saw it as a threat. You know, if everybody's watching YouTube, they're not watching Disney channels or that. So yeah, with yeah. But people in England, I kind of blame social media, but I can't blame something that people want to blame social media for a lot of things. They'll go like, oh, well, Facebook's the reason why people are idiots, or social media's the reason why people are the way they are. It's like, vapid or sort of self-absorbed would be the word. Constantly worrying about their image instead of their things like that. And I think that's true, but I also think it's I think you'd be lying if you said that social media was the cause of a lot of problems that we have in the world. It really just kind of pushed along a lot of problems that were. I always wonder nowadays, because everybody uses the internet for social media, watching videos, streaming, entertainment. Primarily, I mean, work as well. I'd say probably just like entertainment and lifestyle is probably the most useful. But I wonder if we didn't invent things like social media, what would people do with the internet? Because I think when it primarily started getting popularized, the internet, and creating a space where it was anybody can use the internet, it very much was more kind of used for what we all thought it would be used for, which was knowledge and resource. Yeah, a global knowledge resource. Yeah, people always ask questions to it, and you could receive any answer. No longer were you limited to your area of what you could do with things. And then things like Amazon became popular, and people started developing or getting kind of stuck in these universal tools that gave them a resource. I really can't get these eyes right. Well, I don't know if this is right anymore. Personally, I think I've got the eyes wrong and the face wrong, but if I keep struggling on this, I'm never going to get any of it done. So, this is as good as this is going. Although I've spent 25 minutes on a head. Shit. Well, I knew this would be a struggle. I never once thought that this would be the easiest week. Am I on my air or something? I'm gonna go to half an hour for this one. So what can I say about Sammy? Well, I've actually done a bit of research with this, which is nice. Because normally I'm a bit, well, I sort of know what I'm talking about, but not really. That makes much sense. Like, I know the gist of it, but I don't know the... What's it? Okay, yeah, I'll know sort of the basics of it, maybe a bit more than normal, but that's about it. So for this, the character designer behind this, so this was originally a game by Intelligent Systems for the GBA. This is when this art style came from. There were other games in the series before that on the Super Famicom and other consoles, but for the time being, but the one we're focusing popularized itself on GBA, and they, with the sorts of the Game Boy Advance GBA, with the Game Boy, with the Game Boy Advance, brought in a new art style, and for this they brought in 19-year-old Ryo Hirata. This was his first job in the games industry, was doing this. And I believe he still works for Intelligent Systems, but I could be wrong. I believe he still does a lot of the character designs for Fire Emblem. But this is the one that I know. So I went with this one. He's very talented. I mean, to be able to be in this sort of role and responsibility at such a young age really is a testament to his skill. And if you ever look up a lot of his concept art and, well, yeah, his concept art for when he was working on this project, he did a lot of fun. You could tell he was quite integral, but his style was very colourful and really made this great foundation for this game. Because the premise of this game series is it is a strategy turn-based like war game, but it's very like boiled down the war elements to like a really basic degree, so that anyone can play it, which is perfect. I loved it. This was some fucking great music. Yeah, so it's got a very interesting story. The fact that it was a 19-year-old guy. And to be honest, something you don't really see that often anymore. So a lot of times nowadays, it's very much well, anybody trying to get into any industry will know this, it's very senior based. So you don't get a lot of young people who to be in a role. Which I like. I like when somebody takes a chance on someone. Because a lot of times, like, if they are in that role, chances are they're probably going to stay in that role. Like, they don't just animation or character design because they picked up a pencil one day and found they were really good at it. They do it because they're actually enjoy it. Actually, I believe I did create a deviation for that, so I should be able to. So I'm doing these lines so I can tell where everything is. So why did I choose Sammy? I chose Sammy because she's pretty much the opposite of what I like drawing. So for me, I always like drawing the big muscly warrior guys. A huge sword. The guy with a big sword and that'll be my kind of go-to character. So I chose Sammy because she's not that. She's very much kind of different to what I normally draw. So not only is it a challenge because it's not normally what I animate, it's not normally what I draw. So I thought it would be a great challenge. Evidently I was wrong, I'm shit at it. I will say I'm not doing great at this. I see these eyes. I don't know if it's just because I'm drawing them too small. This is like that looks cross-eyed to me. Is it because I'm doing them too square? Is that the case? Like I want to get them right. I just don't like it. It just looks bad to me. If you ever wanted a recommendation of a laptop not to get the Dell XPS 15, performance-wise, brilliant, but it has this stupid bug called the panel refresh bug. If you own one, you know what I'm dealing with. Like, I think it's a really good laptop. It's got really specifications-wise, it's top-notch. But I just can't recommend it because that bloody thing just this panel refresh. It just doesn't. It just freezes the screen. And I fixed it, and as soon as it's an update, it just goes. So. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue. That's the wrong button. So I think the ear is quite low down. I think he has as well, to be honest. And that's definitely something I'm kind of interested in. I think I might have made him too low down. Like the tip of it should actually be like that kind of. So I said this would be more of a challenge because it's well, for a lot of reasons. So I hope you'll stick around with me as I try and do this. I'm not a big. I don't draw much anime characters anyway, so it's not a strong suit. But I'll see you in the next episode where I'm going to try and get more than one frame done, and we'll go from there.